October 2002, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, home to over 5 million people, was brought to a standstill by an invisible threat. Over the course of 3 weeks, a series of random shootings gripped the region in fear. People were shot while pumping gas, walking across parking lots, or going about their daily routines. The perpetrators, at first unknown, became known as the DC Snipers, and they left a trail of terror across Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., killing 10 people and critically wounding 3 others. What began as isolated incidents quickly escalated into one of the most frightening and unforgettable manhunts in U.S. history.
Calls from all over the world have poured into the Montgomery County Police Department, people wondering if their loved ones are victims. You just heard from Chief Charles Moose. The notification to families has just been completed. Names are now being released as well. Let's go to Fox 5's Karen Gray Houston. She's learning more about those people who lost their lives, continuing our team coverage. Karen?
Well, Brian, we're at the scene where one of the victims was gunned down here outside the Fitzgerald Auto Mall in Rockville. As you can see over here, somebody's already brought flowers to the site. We should tell you police are still trying to notify the families of some of the victims, so we can't tell you all of their names. Here's what we do know about the shooting victims. James Martin, 55 years old, was shot last night at the Shoppers Food Warehouse. James Sonny Buchanan, believed to be in his late 30s or early 40s, killed behind the Fitzgerald Auto Mall here in Rockville this morning. A black male in his 40s killed on Aspen Hill Road at the Mobil gas station. Hispanic female in her 40s shot to death outside the post office near Leisure World in Silver Spring. And a white female in her 40s killed at the Shell gas station this morning in Kensington. We are back here live in Rockville. The man who was gunned down here around 7:41 this morning was gunned down right behind the Fitzgerald Auto Mall. He was cutting this small strip of grass over here when he was shot. It's not a lot of grass to cut, and Sonny Buchanan was not just some guy who mows lawns. Dottie Fitzgerald, who's president of the Fitzgerald Auto Mall, says Sonny owned a landscape design company based in Rockville, but really lived in Blacksburg, Virginia.
He made a commitment to us to do this year. He's really moved from here. And we found out that he was driving up here on the weekends in the middle of the night and sleep in the truck for an hour or so until daylight and then cut the grass. Now, a lot of people would have said to you, I'm real sorry I've moved and you're going to need to get somebody else. But when that man gave you his commitment, he kept it.
And she says he was a dedicated civil servant who gave back to the community. He was once on the board of the Montgomery County Boys and Girls Club and the board of Crime Solvers.
He was just a good human being. He did so much with the kids in this county, with the Crime Solvers and with the Boys and Girls Club. He taught them so much about... I'm sorry.
It's ironic that he was killed basically a block away from where he gave so much of his time selling Christmas trees for the kids.
So sad.
We miss him. The calls are coming in. The parents are on the phone crying. Literally, Sonny was like a staff person there, but he was a volunteer.
Fitzgerald employees initially thought Buchanan was injured in some kind of lawn mowing accident, but quickly learned he'd been shot. Somebody tried unsuccessfully to administer CPR.
Nobody really knows right now. You don't know if it's an act of terrorism or if it's just somebody that's some nut out there running around shooting people. So it is kind of scary.
There's going to be a candlelight vigil for all of the victims on Monday night. The Victims' Rights Foundation is going to hold it at 6 o'clock Monday outside the offices of the Montgomery County Council building. We're live in Rockville. Karen Gray Houston, Fox 5 News. Back to you.
Stories like that we all need to hear in this time to see how important these people are. Karen, thank you so much for that.
On October 2, 2002, the first victim of the sniper was shot in a parking lot in Wheaton, Maryland. Just hours later, 5 more people were gunned down in different locations around the Washington, D.C. area. There was no apparent connection between the victims. They were from different backgrounds, different races, and were killed in broad daylight in places that should have been safe. Police were left with no motive, no leads, and no suspect, while fear began to spread rapidly throughout the community. People avoided public spaces, terrified that they could be next.
The 5 deadly shootings happened in a matter of hours and in the same general area. Montgomery County Police have set up a command center at the scene of the 3rd murder in Aspen Hill. Our team coverage continues from there with Fox 5's Bob Barnard. Bob.
Well, Tracy, Montgomery County Police Chief Charles Moose says the killer is a very skilled shooter who started his rampage around 5:20 last night, shooting out the store window of a business just about a half mile from here. It's the only one of the 6 shootings that didn't end in bloodshed and death. The unprecedented murder spree began last night in Wheaton. The victim, a 55-year-old man shot dead walking into the Shoppers Food warehouse on Randolph Road. The murder captured on a surveillance camera. 13 hours later at Rockville Pike and Nicholson Lane, a landscaper is shot and killed. It's 7:41 a.m. Half an hour later, a cabbie is shot dead at this mobile gas station on Connecticut Avenue at Aspen Hill Road.
Just a loud noise and he's laying in the parking lot bleeding to death.
A nurse fueling her minivan next to the taxi cab rushes to the victim's side. He will not survive.
It started over there. I went over there and the guy's laying on the ground, blood all over the side of the van. He's laying on the ground, gasping for air, and the lady, she's standing there shaking. She was trying to help him.
25 minutes later, a little more than a mile away at Leisure World, a woman is murdered while sitting on a park bench in front of a post office. A witness to this shooting tells police he saw 2 men flee in a white delivery truck. Unbelievably, while the Montgomery County Police Chief and Deputy State's Attorney arrive at the gas station in Aspen Hill, the killer targets another woman at a Shell gas station on Connecticut Avenue in Kensington. Paramedics rush to the scene but cannot save the woman's life.
It's always shocking when you get a call like that at any point in time. It's certainly not good when it's right here in your own backyard.
Investigators say they're all but certain the same gunmen are responsible for all 5 murders.
We strongly feel that all of these are connected. Certainly, the weaponry seems to be very similar. Not a lot of evidence. There's no indication at this point that these individuals know each other. There's no indication that any of these individuals had any kind of conflict with anyone.
The search for the killers, an all-out effort all across the region.
We have called in other resources. We have members of the Secret Service, FBI, Maryland State Police, Georges County. They're actually up with their helicopter. Members of Maryland Metropolitan Police Department and the State's Attorney's Office is actually here with us as well.
The snipers operated in a methodical and terrifying manner. They would take aim from a distance, often shooting from a modified hole in the trunk of their car, a blue 1990 Chevrolet Caprice, giving them the ability to fire without being seen. Their attacks were random grocery store parking lots, gas stations, and schoolyards, places where people carried out their daily lives. Authorities were left baffled. The randomness and distance of the attacks made it nearly impossible to predict where the snipers would strike next. Residents of the area were living in constant fear, scanning every rooftop and parking lot, not knowing if they would survive the day.
Well, it's been a violent start to the week in the district as police investigate several shootings that happened in just 24 hours.
Yeah, we're talking about at least 3 people have been killed. Melanie Allman is live on the scene this morning with the latest incident in Northeast D.C. And Melanie, this is just a sad way to start the week off, but here we are again.
Yeah, you know, though homicides are down statistically across the city by 31% from yesterday into this morning, we had yet another wave of shootings in the city, leaving at least 3 men dead in separate incidents. The latest shooting this morning on Edgewood Street Northeast was reported at 1 a.m. Up to 20 evidence markers in the plaza entrance to the Edgewood Commons apartment building could be seen. At last word, the victim was alive, but in critical condition. Monday morning started with a homicide at 10 a.m. in the 1100 block of Eastern Avenue Northeast. This is near the intersection with Sheriff Road, right on the PG County line. Then just minutes later, a second man was shot and killed in the 4100 block of Southern Avenue in Southeast, also on the PG County line in the Fort Davis area. In both of those cases, police described the victims as adults and said the shootings did not appear to be connected and did not appear to be random. There are no suspect descriptions in either case. These would be the city's 151st and 152nd homicides in the District of Columbia so far this year. And there was more gunfire into the night. At 9:07 p.m., rescue crews and police were at a row house on T Street Northeast across from McKinley Tech High School. D.C. police confirmed it was another fatal shooting, number 153 this year. And there were 2 more shootings last night, those both in Southeast D.C. D.C. police have not given any information about victims in those cases yet. We also expect the police department to release the identities of those 3 men killed yesterday sometime later today.
The entire nation watched as the D.C. area became paralyzed by fear. Schools went into lockdown, businesses saw fewer customers, and people avoided public spaces as much as possible. The snipers were not just killing randomly. They were psychologically tormenting the entire population. The media coverage was relentless, with daily updates and news specials keeping the nation informed, but also increasing the anxiety of those living in the region. Police set up checkpoints and encouraged people to report anything suspicious, but for weeks, no concrete leads were found. The snipers seemed to be one step ahead of law enforcement at every turn.
Come here, Snipe. Come on.
He's gonna eat my GoPro.
20 years on, Paul LaRufa is determined never to let his brush with death derail his life.
This is Sniper Survivor.
The random shooting rampage began last Wednesday evening.
Just a year after 9/11.
You go out in the morning, you don't never know if you're going to make it back.
Our region terrorized again.
Somebody got shot at Battlefield Sunoco.
Lee Boyd Malvo and John Allen Muhammad perched in the back of an old Chevy Caprice, murdering innocents just out pumping gas, shopping, mowing the lawn, going to school.
There's been a shooting, unfortunately, in a restaurant.
Do you think about the people who died?
I do.
LaRufa says fate gave him a chance to survive.
Most of them had zero chance. You know, they were alive 1 minute and dead the next second.
I think you should sit down, Paul. Sit down. Hurry up, I'm having trouble breathing. He's having trouble breathing.
I walked out, went to my car.
September 5th, 2002, LaRufa closed his Prince George's restaurant and threw his laptop and the day's receipts in the back seat.
I heard a loud sound at the same time that the window just exploded.
Malvo had run up and shot him 5 times.
One bullet went through my arm into my chest, one in my diaphragm, another one in my side, and one went in my neck right by my spine.
He said you could sit down and not move around. All right, but I don't want to die here. No, we're not going to let that happen.
LaRufa never got a chance to thank everyone who helped him.
I get emotional listening to that when I say, I don't want to die in this parking lot. And when that guy says, we're not going to let that happen. That gets me. I regret that I never met that guy.
LaRufa sold the restaurant. It has been replaced by a vape shop, although the sign is still up. LaRufa is still mad that the snipers used the about $3,500 in proceeds from robbing and shooting him to finance 3 weeks of terror.
Here's a picture from the Mohammed trial of them holding up my shirt.
His healing has been miraculous. He still thinks about the snipers all the time, but he is no longer haunted by them.
If I had to die on that night, I wasn't afraid.
We all have to die sometime, and it's comforting to know that when your time comes, you'll be okay.
Yeah. I just didn't want that to be my time, and I'm glad it wasn't.
Don't say anything, just listen. Where are the people that are causing the killing in your area?
Malvo's serving 4 life terms in Virginia and was sentenced to another 6 in Maryland.
There you are.
Virginia executed Muhammad in 2009.
Death
The sentence is death, death for John Mohammed.
All right, Snipe, extra treat.
LaRufa is not obsessing, but he's never forgetting either.
Because his name is Sniper Survivor, which is a positive thing.
In Southern Maryland, Bruce Leshan, WUSA 9.
After weeks of terror and frustration, a breakthrough finally came. A tip led police to a blue 1990 Chevrolet Caprice, parked at a rest area off Interstate 70 in Maryland. Inside the car were two men, 41-year-old John Allen Muhammad and 17-year-old Lee Boyd Malvo. They were arrested without incident. Investigators found the sniper rifle in the trunk of the car, hidden in a specially modified space. The nightmare that had gripped the DC area for nearly a month was finally over. But the question remained, why had they done this? And how had they managed to evade capture for so long?
A lot has happened in just the past 24 hours as the sniper manhunt literally went nationwide. It began with a task force phone tip from someone claiming responsibility for the sniper killings and a September shooting in Alabama.
So investigators headed to Montgomery, where they recovered a fingerprint from the shooting scene, a neighborhood liquor store. That fingerprint belonged to 17-year-old Lee Malvo.
Now, detectives quickly traced Malvo to a home in Tacoma, Washington, where he had lived with 41-year-old John Allen Muhammad. Investigators carefully searched the home early last night to removing a tree stump with bullet fragments in it.
The result, a midnight news conference. Montgomery County Police releasing a picture of a wanted man, John Allen Muhammad, as well as a description of a car.
A citizen spotted that car at a rest stop in Myersville, Maryland, just 60 minutes later. Inside, Muhammad and Malvo. An emergency response team took him into custody without incident.
We have team coverage tonight from one coast to the other. We begin with Fox 5's Bob Barnard live at police headquarters in Rockville. What a day, Bob.
Incredible day, Tracy. We're still waiting to hear from Chief Moose. In fact, he hasn't said anything publicly about this morning's arrest. Police are obviously waiting for test results to come back on the rifle that was found in the car that the father and stepson were in, to see whether if the test on that rifle matches with all the different sniper attacks. Under police escort and hidden inside this white trailer, the car from which a 3-week-long killing spree may have been plotted and carried out. Inside the blue 1990 Chevy Caprice, police and federal agents recovered a Bushmaster rifle that fires 223 rounds and also seized a scope and tripod. Todd Easterday witnessed the search.
They were taking each thing out of the car, and somebody was cataloging it. One of the boxes was a real long box. Like, I'm not saying a gun came in it, but it looked like a box that you buy a gun in.
Arrested without incident around 3 o'clock this morning, 42-year-old John Allen Muhammad, also known as John Allen Williams, and his 17-year-old stepson Lee Malvo. The pair found sleeping inside their car by a motorist who stopped at this I-70 rest stop west of Frederick, just an hour after Muhammad, Malvo, and their car were identified by police. What do you think of the fact that this may be over?
Oh, I hope it is. I really do. I really hope for people's peace of mind.
The rest stop just outside Myersville and the parking space where the suspect's car was parked, an immediate tourist attraction.
Just had to have a look, I guess, so drive by to see it.
Maryland State Police cadets on their hands and knees helped investigators look for other evidence at the rest stop. The car, with the world watching, taken to a secure location in Gaithersburg for further examination. And now 2 men, whose names and faces we'd never seen or heard before, may forever be known as 2 people who instilled fear in a community of more than 2 million. 14 shots, 13 hits, 10 killed. Their car was spotted around 1 in the morning, just about an hour after Chief Moose came before the cameras last night around midnight. But the men weren't taken into custody until a little after 3:30, and that is because after Maryland State Police came to confirm that it was their car, they put a perimeter around the rest stop. They called the task force. They mobilized SWAT teams. They got up there. They woke up Muhammad and Malvo and put them under arrest. Tracy, back to you.
All right, Bob, thanks so much. You know, we have watched as police have pulled over dozens of white vans and trucks over the past 3 weeks. Well, today, ironically, it was the driver of a white truck who spotted Muhammad's car at that Maryland rest stop and called police, and then blocked the exit of the rest stop with his truck.
I'm no hero. I just want people to think what I did was what I should have done. I'm no hero at this. No hero whatsoever. I don't even want to even be thinking of a hero. I just want everybody to tell me thanks and walk away and forget about it.
The driver, by the way, had a prayer meeting with dozens of fellow truck drivers praying that the sniper would be caught.
As the details of the case began to emerge, the world learned the disturbing truth about the 2 men behind the attacks. John Allen Muhammad, a Gulf War veteran, had masterminded the killings as part of a larger plan. His motive appeared to be a mixture of personal vengeance and a broader desire to create chaos. Leboyd Malvo, a troubled teenager from Jamaica, had been groomed by Muhammad into becoming his accomplice. Muhammad had brainwashed Malvo, convincing him to carry out the killings. For both of them, the DC sniper attacks were meant to be the beginning of a much larger wave of terror.
It would not have happened. Throughout the trial, she has argued Tsarnaev did it because he was under the influence of his older brother Tamerlan. If the jury accepts that argument, it could be enough to save Tsarnaev from the death penalty. It's a strategy that has worked before.
A shocking series of shootings in what is normally a quiet area outside the nation's capital.
October 2002, the nation's beltway in the grip of fear as random victims are shot by a sniper stalking roadways in the Washington, D.C. area.
It's really sad to say that, but we are not safe anymore.
After 10 are killed and several injured, police captured John Allen Muhammad, who was 41, and his then 17-year-old accomplice Leboyd Malvo. In the opening statement of Malvo's trial, much like Tsarnaev's, Malvo's attorney immediately admitted guilt, saying about his client, "We are not suggesting to you that they got the wrong man." Malvo's attorney argued the 17-year-old's mental state was in question and he should be spared the death penalty. He blamed it on brainwashing, saying, quote, "Lee Malvo was under a degree of indoctrination." The argument worked. Malvo was spared the death penalty and instead sentenced to life without parole, while Muhammad was sentenced to death. He died from lethal injection in 2009. Years later, from his prison cell, Malvo, at 27 years old, explained to the Washington Post what it was like living under Muhammad's spell as a teenager.
But you told me the old person has to die. Lee Malvo has to die.
Tsarnaev's attorney argued during his trial he too was under the spell of an older man, but the prosecutor in his rebuttal told jurors, don't be distracted by arguments about what his brother did versus what he did. It makes no difference. This is hardly Clark's first tough case. She actually has a history of saving clients accused of heinous acts.
John Allen Muhammad was sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection in 2009. Leboyd Malvo, as a juvenile, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Over the years, Malvo has expressed remorse for his actions, and his role in the attacks has been scrutinized in light of his age and Muhammad's influence over him. The DC sniper attacks left a lasting impact on the nation, raising questions about security, gun control, and the vulnerability of everyday life. For those who lived through it, the fear of those 23 days will never be forgotten.